Welcome to the channel again. Today we are talking about Tradition and the Individual Talent by T.S.Eliot. In our today's discussion, we shall be talking about introduction of the text, point-wise idea, summary, discussion, and there will be certain phrases that are quoted time and again from this seminal essay by T.S.Eliot. I am sure you will accompany me till the end of this video. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe my channel, and if you think this channel is or this video is worth watching, please share among your friends and fellows. Tradition and the individual talent. This is just short introduction of the text. It's the title, Tradition and the Individual Talent by T.S.Eliot. The type of this essay is conceptual, and the concept is modernism, new criticism. The theme of this essay is the best writers are those who write with a sense of continuity with those writers who came before. And here are some points, and this is a point-wise idea of this essay. This will help you to get going into the depth of the text. Novelty is better than repetition. Tradition cannot be inherited but must be obtained by great labor. It involves the historical sense, which involves the perception not only on the pastness of the past but its presence. The historical sense is timeless as well as temporal, timeless and temporal together. The poet must be very conscious of the main current, which does not at all flow invariably through the most distinguished reputations. No poet, no artist of any art has his complete meaning alone. His significance, his appreciation is the appreciation of his relation to the dead poets and artists. An author is to be appreciated in his relation to the dead poets and artists. Set him for contrast and comparison among the dead. A new work is to be adjusted in the stream. Art never improves, but the material of art is never quite the same. The artistic work abandons nothing but assimilate with everything. The progress of an artist is a continual self-sacrifice, continual extinction of personality. Individual talent is the process of depersonalization, a state of catalyst. Honest criticism and sensitive appreciation are directed not upon the poet but upon the poetry. The poet has not a personality to express, but a particular medium. Impressions and experiences are important for poetry. The business of the poet is not to find new emotions, but to use the ordinary ones. About the origin of poetry, Eliot says, Wordsworthian formula, that is romanticist of 19th century, formula is inexact. It is a concentration and a new thing resulting from the concentration. Poetry is not a turning loose of emotion but an escape from emotion. It is not an expression of personality but an escape from personality. So this is all about the points of this essay, point-wise breakdown. The tradition to which Eliot refers is the canon of great poetry. Such tradition cannot be inherited but must be obtained by great labor. It involves primarily the historical sense, that is perception not only of the pastness of the past but of presence. It extends out from the limit of the time and place, and at the same time properly balances timeless and temporal together. The author is to be stream of the canon of literature. No artist or no poet can have complete meaning alone. He is to be appreciated in relation to the dead poets and artists. His work is to be compared and contrasted with the dead poets. The new work as a novelty is better than repetition. Tradition is a matter of much wider significance which cannot be inherited. If we want it, we must obtain it by great labor. No poet, no artist of any kind has complete meaning alone. His significance, his appreciation is the appreciation of his relation to the dead poets and artists. There should be the balance between past and present. A new poet must be very conscious of the main current which does not at all flow invariably through the most distinguished reputations. He must be aware of the fact that the stream covers the vast area of resources, but in this process the scum and trifles are left behind. Only sublime mind goes on with the stream. The process of the creation is a process of continual surrender, continual sacrifice, a continual extinction of personality. T.S.Eliot names this process as depersonalization. An individual talent continually extincts his own ego, personal emotion, and personality to the mainstream of tradition. That's main canons of literature. The role of the poet is the process of creation is like that of a catalyst. Eliot gives an analogy that oxygen and sulfur dioxide get changed to sulfurous acid in the mere presence of a filament of platinum. In the same way, the poet's mind is like platinum filament which changes experience, emotion and feeling into an artist's work or a poem. The poem contains no trace of author's personality or personal feeling. Poet, being a catalyst, has no personality to express, but a particular medium in which experiences and impressions combine in a new artistic style. Hence, personal impression and experience and poetic impression and experience are completely apart. They may be same before the creation of artistic work, but they are quite different after the accomplishment. According to Eliot, the origin of poetry is not what Wordsworth states, emotions recollected in tranquility. It is a concentration and a new thing resulting from the concentration, a concentration which does happen consciously or of deliberation. Poetry is not turning loose of emotion, but an escape from emotion. It is not expression of personality. The emotion of art is impersonal, and the poet cannot reach this impersonality without surrendering himself wholly to the work to be done. Eliot's concept of poet is that the poet has no personality to express, but a particular medium in which impressions and experiences combine in peculiar and unexpected ways. The business of the poet is not to find the new emotions, but to use the ordinary ones. The bad poet is usually unconscious where he ought to be conscious, and he is conscious where he ought to be unconscious. That's vice versa. And let's get going with the discussion of this essay. In Tradition and the Individual Talent, T.S.Eliot makes two primary points. First, tradition extends broadly to incorporate the past and the present, and the poets should strive to know tradition and insert themselves into. Second, poets ought to be merely the impersonal receptacle of the elements that join together to create art. They should not impose their emotions or personality on their poetry. In Tradition and Individual Talent, Eliot advocates for the separation of art from artist and argues that tradition has less to do with imitation and more to do with understanding and expanding upon the intellectual and literary context in which one is writing. This essay is divided into three parts. The first, the concept of tradition, then the theory of impersonal poetry, and finally the conclusion. The essay Tradition and Individual Talent is an attack on certain critical views in Romantic era, particularly upon the idea that a poem is primarily an expression of personality of the poet. There is great importance of tradition in the present poem. Tradition should be inherited but should be obtained by great labor. In fact, tradition acquires a wider significance in Eliot's writing. It involves a historical sense that is really essential for any work of art. His historical sense involves a perception not only of the vastness of the past but also its presentness. In any work, the past should be altered by the present, just as the present is directed by the past. In this way, present affects the past as past affects the present, because present poet adapts the tradition of past with hard labor. A good writer or poet identifies his position in present with the comparison to past writers. Therefore, the combination of temporal and timeless is as whole tradition. The meaning of the poem is not possible in isolation. No poet, no any artist has his complete meaning unless we link him or her to a chain of all poets. Importance and value of any poet can't be judged by anyone in isolation. So, there must be the tradition to compare one with another. To create a good poem, one should surrender the self. This self-sacrifice of personality gives birth to a good poem. All the personal emotions, feelings and experiences should be sacrificed. There should not be personal image of poet in his poetry. The theory that the poet should surrender his personality is depersonalization. The poet's personal feelings and emotions should be depersonalized. He must be an impersonal and objective like a scientist. Poetry should be impersonal. Poetry is not turning loose of emotion, but an escape from emotion. Eliot's point is more like what Keats uses his term negative capability. Eliot stands against romantic poets who think the poetry is spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings and personal emotions. But Eliot says poetry is not so, but an escape from personality. Poetry is organization rather than inspiration. So, the critics should be objective while treating the poems. The belief that there is a poet speaking in the poem should be checked. In his conceptual essay, T.S.Eliot tries or uses the term tradition approvingly. Before him, it used to be disapprovingly. Tradition refers to the historical sense required in a poet. It does not mean the influence of the past authors exerted on him, but this indispensable quality required in any poet is the sense of timeless and well as of the temporal and of the timeless and temporal together. It is quite relevant for this term to be used in this context. Relationship of the poetry of the present to the poetry of the past is one of the issues that T.S.Eliot talks in his essay. The poetry of the past should be re-evaluated by the works of the present. The past should be altered by the present, and the present is directed by the past. This is a continuous process going on for ages. In the same way, the present must be evaluated in terms of what has so far been created in the past. Thus, the whole existing order should be reshuffled, altered, evaluated and judged by using the past and the present as the units of measurement. The present poet has the responsibility to adjust with the past poets and their canons. T.S.Eliot in paragraph 10 draws analogy between depersonalization and the function of filiated platinum as a catalyst agent into a chamber containing oxygen and sulfur dioxide. In paragraph 11, the same illustration is elaborated by presenting the poet as a perfected medium in which bright feelings are at liberty to enter into new combinations. In paragraph 12, the analogy is complete. Like the platinum, the poet's mind is a catalyst agent. It works on sufferings and passions without leaving its stress on the work. Like the neutral inert platinum, this analogy establishes the poet's depersonalized state. Eliot's views on the personal emotion of the poet is clear. Poetic sensibility is important quality in a poet. Over-learning does not make him necessarily sensible. He should retain required degree of receptivity and laziness. He should procure the consciousness of the past and should continue to develop this consciousness throughout his career. He should strive for the continual extinction of personality. The process of artistic creation involves the continual surrender, continual self-sacrifice, and continual extinction of the artist. The process of artistic creation is the process of depersonalization of the poet or artist. It makes art very close to science. By depersonalization, Eliot means that the poet should not be bound by any personal limits. The emotions of art, Eliot says, is personal. He should avoid personal involvement in its creation. His mind is like a catalyst, combines different experiences and gives them a new shape. He should also realize that art can never be improved only, but uses the material of it. After the discussion of this seminal essay, now we have come to some quotable phrases and expressions. One of the most effective rhetoric used by Eliot is the production of quotable phrases and sentences as if aphorisms. Some of the quoted aphorisms in this essay are: criticism is as inevitable as breathing. Such type of simile used here. No poet, no artist of any art has his complete meaning alone. Art never improves. The material of art is never quite the same. The conscious present is an awareness of the past. Impersonal theory of poetry is the relation of the poem to its author. The emotions of art is impersonal. Okay. With this discussion, I have come to the end of my discussion of this essay by T.S.Eliot. The title of this discussion was Tradition and the Individual Talent. I am sure you got the points. If you have any queries, put your ideas in my comment box. I will be back with another important videos for you. Till then, have a nice time.